Welcome to the Lowdown Podcast, the show where we dive deep into the topics that directly impact the evolving originator. I'm your host, Connor Bartley. Bam! And joining me today is someone that I really call a friend in this business. He shows up every day as one of the most authentic guys in the industry, someone who is a champion for all to achieve their dream of home ownership, so much so that he took the big step of opening his own brokerage, Inclusive Lending. I'm thrilled to introduce and welcome Mylo Draven, ILO, to the Lowdown Podcast today. Thanks for joining us today, Mylo.
Damn, thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. Look at us now, right? We're doing a podcast. Can you believe it? Like, we've been in touch for years and all this
Listen,
stuff. So,
I'm riding your coattails all the way, baby.
well, hey, man, thank you for joining this conversation with me today. You know, a few weeks back or however long ago it was, I saw your post on Facebook that you had started your own thing, and I'm inspired by that. I love when people just take the initiative to say, you know what, screw it, I'm going to do it on my own because I know how to, I want to do it. And so I wanted to have you on this podcast to unpack that and go through the decision that led you there, the process of kind of going through all of that, and everything that comes along with that journey. Because I know there are listeners here that are contemplating jumping into something like that. They don't know how to get started, and your story could really be helpful to them in that journey. But before we go into that, just for context and all of that, like, let's start with the podcast origin story, right? Like, what is it that, how'd you get started in this business? What are the things that people need to know about you to kind of get a full understanding of who you are and what brought you here today?
So I was buying a house about 10 years ago, and my LO was ratchet. He was rude. I didn't understand anything he was saying. I didn't understand why I didn't understand because I'm not stupid. And I called a friend of mine who's a realtor, and we're actually referral partners now. And I said, "Hey, what do I do? Like, I don't understand this loan officer jargon. Like, what do..." She said, "Go to Champion School of Real Estate. I think they have a loan officer course. Like, that'll help you understand, right?" So I took the course. Then, because I'm a type A person, I had signed up for the follow up course the following weekend, the review. And at the end of the review, the instructor says, "Okay, everybody, good luck on your exam." And I said, "What exam?" He said, "Your exam, your national exam to be a mortgage originator." I said, "A mortgage originator? For who?" He said, "People trying to buy houses." I said, "Hell, how did I get here?"
Yeah,
Two
that's
weeks
great.
later, I passed the test. The rest is history. I am a consistently hot producing, whatever that means, because there's a context for that, right? But I do well. I'm blessed. I've never let anything sort of get in my way in terms of mortgages. If I didn't know, I found out. If I didn't like it, I tried to understand why, because if I didn't like it, that meant a client's not going to like it. So I'm very big on not rebuttals, but answers. Nobody wants a no. They want a here's why we can't, or here's why it's this way. So I think for me, I like sort of that puzzle aspect of being an originator, and I'm bossy AF, so it works.
Great. So when our paths intersected, it was in the context of recruiter calling loan officer and all of that. But I gotta tell you, man, like, the thing that always really stood out to me was that you kept it real every time we talked. You shot me straight, and I could always tell that you had a laser focus on the experience for the consumer. And that always stood out to me. And I don't know if I've ever shared that with you, but that was always something that I could tell was important to you. Not just the same, a lot of people that I talk with are rates or products, and they're very driven by very specific other things. But like you, I could tell wanted what was best for the consumer, and that you were looking, towards that. And sometimes that includes all those other things. But what kind of was it your experience with that buying the house that really formed that way of thinking, or have you always been that way? Kind of what gives you that tilt to the way you operate?
Yeah, so I think I just have a servant's heart. And, I did hair, I was a cosmetologist. I did hair for almost 22 years. And who knew it was the training ground to become an originator? And, when you have a client in your chair or 1 foot away, and they're there for anywhere from 60 to 60 minutes to 2 hours, right? And you've got to make them like you. You've got to make them trust you. You have to make them understand what you're doing. If you're doing color work, they have to understand why this, that, or the other. If they want a certain style, you've got to say why their hair isn't going to do that. You can't just say, look, sis, that haircut is for a 20-year-old and you're 60. It's not happening, right? Like you. So I think that has always been part of who I am. Like, I want you to understand. I want you to feel great. I want you to trust me. Selfishly, it makes my life easier, right? My repeat clients, whether it was hair clients or now loan clients, mortgage clients, they come in trusting me. Hey, Mylo, we're ready to do an investment property. Hey, Mylo, I need to do a cash out because I want to buy this. Or, hey, we're upgrading. We like, there's just the relationship is so much stronger because I maintain the relationship, right? If your first impression is star, it's so much easier, right? So I pour my heart and soul into every transaction. I used to be much more emotional when I first started because I didn't understand how to regulate the emotion, right? I didn't know how to not take things personally. So now it's a very managed emotion, right? I know when the roller coaster is about to go up, I don't need to scream because I know what's going to happen. And since I know what's coming, I can tell my client. Like you and I were talking before we started this, my client's lost a quarter on the rate already. And we talked about it yesterday. He had lost an eighth. And his response was, well, I don't really care. It's fine. I'll refinance it. But that was very different than last week when he started with, hey, I hear everything's moving in my favor and, rates are down. And I said, yeah, no, that's for primary residences, not for investment properties. Your rates are doing nothing.
Yeah, yeah,
He's like, okay. So I think for me, going back to what you said, I have zero fear. I don't have a problem telling somebody, you're wrong.
yeah, yeah.
I
Well,
think
and I think that that candor is really what builds trust. I think culturally speaking, today, a lot of folks are really just trying to avoid conflict. And, conflict builds trust when you face it head on and you're honest and you just share, what this is a complicated situation that people are entering into. They're vulnerable, their finances are out there. They've got to kind of like just bear it all and say, "Tell me what I can do." And I think the easy way out is to just sort of avoid the difficult conversation if there's a lack of knowledge of how to move forward or things like that. But the other way is to just face it head on, tell them what it is, and then make decisions from there. And it sounds like you take the latter route, and I think that really does build a lot of trust. I applaud you for that.
thanks. You've got to have the tough conversations. And at the end of the day, I see a lot of LOs asking for scripts and what did you say to make that work? And how can I? Everybody's trying to be some version of what they think a loan officer is. You can't be anything other than who you are. And you've got to embrace who you are, flaws and all, right? And work. Listen, when I tell clients at the very beginning, I'm a little loud. So if I sound frustrated, it's not you. I might just be pissed off at the market. So don't take it personally. I'm Puerto Rican and Cuban. Like we got passion. I tell clients in the first consultation, I do a Zoom consultation after the application in docs. And I tell everybody, listen, this is math. You learn this in second grade. It's addition and subtraction. There's some multiplication, but the computer does it. So it's not flawed by me. And it does not matter whether you're black, white, Indonesian, Parisian, purple, like it's math. It's not socioeconomic. Nobody's out to get you, right? And they just laugh and they all exhale. Every one of them says, thank you. Like, because the fear is that what they're doing because of what's been advertised on social media and on TV is you're dumb. You need a realtor. You need a loan officer. They know more than you. You're not dumb. You know what your budget is. You know how much money you have. You know more than I do about you. So I need you to trust me, share all that, and I'm going to share about the process, right? And that's what I tell them. I'm like, listen, I'm the new best friend you didn't know you needed. I need to know all your business. Don't leave anything out. And if you do, just remember, I already have a home.
Right?
I'm trying to help you.
Very good. So let's talk about inclusive lending, this
Yes.
decision to take that leap of faith and go into that endeavor. I mean, that's a big deal. And so I'm just kind of curious what led you to that and then how's it been going?
So I left retail. We met when I was a broker. I ended up going retail for a year, went back to brokering, and I ended up at Colab Lending. And Colab is the first place where I felt seen, heard, understood, embraced, and I think that's powerful, right? It was the first company I've ever worked where there is a Hispanic CEO who also happens to be gay. So for me, it's like, wait, what? Another gay Hispanic? There's two unicorns? What? It was a mind blowing moment. And then I didn't realize what I was missing previously. And I've worked at great places, I've got great relationships with former employers, but they're white men and they're rich, and I'm neither. So relate is different. And they're heterosexual. So I remember working at one place, they're like, well, you're not going to be real emotional, are you? I'm like, wait, what? What? Yes, I am. Get prepared.
Right.
Colab gave me a very safe space. They have a franchise program. They told me and showed me insert eye roll with, Excel spreadsheets and mega webinars, like very detailed one on one. And I'm not super detailed. I'm like, does it feel right? Let's go.
Right.
So we did all that. And they said, listen, I think this is the right path for you. And I said, well, okay, I'm going to trust you guys. And it really boiled down to it's been almost a year that I've been there. So, you know, I was on the transition team. I have a concierge team now helping me start inclusive lending. I named it. It went live in March. Be an owner, they said. You'll make more money, they said. It is a journey of faith. You just have to believe that you can do it and that you're meant to do it. And it's when they called me, my concierge, Jessica, when Jessica called me to say that NMLS had given inclusive lending the number, right? I started crying in the car,
Yeah.
just tears streaming. And I was so surprised because it was never a dream of mine. Ownership was not something I thought about. I thought it was for rich white guys. And here I am, like, now I'm an owner. You can see me now, like, who knew? And it was really important for me to create a name that really embodied my mentality, which is inclusion. Homeownership is for everybody. Nobody should feel excluded. We just closed a deal for 1.6 million and we have a deal closing next week for 152,000. Like, I don't say no, right? Because that $152,000 house is $1.6 million for her. So for us, what I don't understand about the mortgage game is the segregation, right? You've got all these groups that segregate, and then they wonder why they don't have inclusive business.
Mm,
Well, you're excluding people.
right.
So for me, if you want to buy a home, I want to talk to you.
Yeah.
Period. End of story.
So as an owner now, I mean, anytime you go and build or create and kind of branch out and take this very vulnerable step, like what are those moments like? Because I know you've got to have those doubtful times, those moments of, oh my, what am I getting myself into? Like, what are some of the, if you don't mind sharing, I
Dude,
know I'm
listen.
asking you kind of a big question here,
Yeah,
but
I know. So listen, I already told you I cried when inclusive was born. Before I agreed to sort of say yes to it's a 152-page franchise contract. An attorney was going to charge $8,000 to review it. And I sat down with the two CEOs and said, listen, are you going to take my company if I say fuck? And they're like, no. I said, okay, I'll sign the document. Like, I don't like,
yeah, there
if
you
I can
go.
say that on your podcast, but,
Well,
walk
I
it
just
out.
have to change it to not suitable for kids now, but
Yeah,
that's
walk
okay.
it out with a bam. Yeah. So I signed up, but once I said yes, the stress level, self induced, was through the moon, like through the roof.
Yeah.
Am I good enough? Am I smart enough? Am I busy enough? Can I afford this? What do I need to do next? So, having a team behind me that believed in me, having my husband Bruce, who's my processor, supporting me and saying, listen, I'm so proud of you. Of course you can do this, right? My mom was so proud. You start to put all of those voices on mute and you just start tackling one task at a time, right? And so with the help of Jessica, my concierge lead, it's she's taking care of the lenders. We've got the EIN and the business name and the NMLS. Like it just, I think if you do this, you have to be prepared to have a success list and to just check items off. Because if you sit in a space thinking you can do all of it without any organization, it's so overwhelming. And I just had a call yesterday with Advantage Credit, and they were talking and talking, and I said, "Listen, I don't even know what the hell you're saying. This seems really expensive. Can we just go back to the original plan?" Just started laughing. I'm like, "Well, put it on the back burner. I feel like you guys think I'm cooking with gas, and I'm thinking I don't have enough butane yet. So let's slow down." And they were like, "Yep, we'll give you this, and we'll revisit this in 90 days." And I think it's important when you become a broker owner to have the voice. Right? You're allowed to say no, you're allowed to ask questions, and you're allowed to be scared. You're allowed to be happy. Just don't be an asshole. You're not the only broker owner in the world.
Yeah, but it does take a certain element of having like willing to be bold, to put yourself out there, to take that risk. Because I mean, you just listed off a bunch of questions that I'm sure a lot of people would struggle with. And at the end of the day, I mean, did you ever ask yourself the question, or was there ever a moment where you transitioned from the question of will it work to will it be worth it? Because I feel like for me, just personally, like that's the switch that I always have to evaluate decisions by, which is, will it work? Okay, that could paralyze me forever, but is it worth it? If the answer to that is yes, then will it work doesn't matter. I'll make it work.
You make it work. Yeah. So
Yeah.
for me, the real questions were, can I grow? Can I grow this brand to be worthy of a brokerage? Right? Can Mylo is my LO? Can Team Mylo Home Loans justify Inclusive Lending LLC being in existence? Because for me, that's the key. Like, I don't want to be embarrassed, right? I don't want to wonder what the hell happened, like, right? What went wrong? For me, it was always worth it because I'm getting old, Connor. I mean, I just turned 57. My when we first started talking, I had like the 10-year plan.
Right.
Now I'm on the 6-year plan.
Yeah, yeah, getting shorter.
Yeah, I mean, like it's getting truncated. And so now it comes down to ownership. I can sell or I can hire junior LOs that run off my brand, my name, and just take a cut, right? So it was always worth it. The real question was, would I get out of my own way?
Hmm. Yeah.
Would I
Well,
block my own blessing?
like you make a great point. Someone else made this point to me in the past about just like if you're W-2 somewhere, you don't have an exit plan really as a loan officer. You're when it's over, it's over.
Yeah.
You just basically resign, retire, whatever you want to call it, right off into the sunset and it's done. And all that you did over the years to build up the business and everything, someone else in that branch is calling your referral partners. Maybe you set it up and handed it off or whatever, but as far as you're concerned, it's over. So you make a great point there about being in ownership where you now have the option of selling or having others, do in your name and just sort of being able to kind of fade into the background a little bit.
I think,
So it's a really
as
interesting
loan,
option.
yeah, as loan officers, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. As loan officers, we're not privy to the conversations, at least in my opinion, in my experience, right? I don't want to make a huge sweeping statement for everybody, but it's area managers, COOs, it's CEOs, it's CFOs having these conversations about yield and what the future looks like and making these money moves that LOs are not instructed or educated to make. LOs are told, go get business. Go get business. We'll take care of it. Get out of the file, right? Hunt, 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 hunt. Okay, well, eventually a soldier gets shot or gets worn out. And to be able, listen, for me, I started to realize earlier on in my career they weren't having the conversations around me. I was not getting invited to the table. I didn't even know where the fucking room was. Like, you're on your own, kid. Start making money, right? And now, with the help of, Collab and the franchise, I've created my own building, my own room with my own table. And now I can invite people to either join or to have the conversation. Like this podcast is great for me to say, listen, if you're out there thinking about it, then explore it. If you're thinking about it, that means it's on your heart and your mind that it's something you want to do. And it's, of course, it's scary. I mean, what isn't scary the first time you do it, right? But it is what it is. It's not like you don't know how to originate loans.
Right. So to that point, and I think this is a good place to start kind of wrapping things up here. Someone might be listening to this today and go, "That's great for Mylo. That's not my jam. I'm not going to take that step. I'm happy doing what I'm doing." But there might be someone listening today going, "That sounds really interesting, and I do want to explore that." How does someone get started? Where can they look, or who can they turn? Should they reach out to you for a conversation? Like, what's a great first step?
Yeah, so if you want to be a broker owner, you can do what is that? I think it's 1-800 be a mortgage broker, like or mortgagebroker.com. You can reach out to UWM. They sort of back that. You for sure can reach out to me. Listen, I'm happy to talk to anybody about it. They could reach out to Megan Marsh at Collab. She's on LinkedIn. She really does a lot of social media about the franchise model. And for me, the franchise model works better because I don't want to be responsible for compliance. I don't have time to go to 10 lenders to get approved, right? Like, while Inclusive has been born and is up and running, I've still been closing loans. I haven't gotten distracted or, by pulled away from my bread and butter. And ultimately, if somebody isn't thinking about ownership, think about the money because I would say 9 out of 10 people are money motivated. And if you're money motivated, then ownership is the answer.
Yeah. Well, good deal, man. Well, I'm glad to see that you've taken this step. I'm really looking forward to what happens with inclusive lending and what the future is for you. I know that you're a get it done kind of guy and will do excellent things. But thanks for just sharing that story on the lowdown today. Like I said, someone out there is going to hear this and it's going to be really useful to their own personal journey. So I appreciate you just being open about it and sharing everything. And again, look forward to keeping an eye on what happens for you next.
I appreciate you. And I've said this earlier, but I'm going to say it so that it's recorded. You are one of the few people in the mortgage industry that I respect. And you are someone who is reshaping what it means to be a recruiter, what it means to be a good person in the mortgage industry. And without you, this industry would suck balls. So please keep doing what you're doing with your in your lowdown. Like I am Team Connor all day, every day. I watch from the sidelines. I go, come on, man, get it. So I really appreciate what you're doing for everybody. And I know, your reputation precedes you. So keep doing you, boo. You are amazing.
That's very kind of you to say, man. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Well, and we'll just end on that then, because I can't think of a better ending, right? But thanks for joining. If you guys want to reach out to Mylo, you can find him on Facebook, LinkedIn, all those places.
I've been Mylo Draven. I'm the only one.
Got it, man. Well, good deal. Well, thanks for joining. I appreciate you.
Thanks, Connor. Appreciate you.